Let's take a look at some of the functionality of the combined object selection and range selection tools in Cubase. In previous versions of Cubase, these would function independently. So we could work and select objects, and then we could switch to a different tool and select ranges. So a few Cubase versions ago, they decided to combine these because people were constantly switching back and forth between those two tools. When hovering over an event, the bottom area is now an object selection tool. When I move to the top, that will then switch to our range selection tool when we're in the combined mode. If I want to select multiple events, I could hold down my Control or Command keys and select the events, and we could move them if we wanted to. To copy events, hold down the Alt or Option key and drag. If I want to constrain a direction either vertically or horizontally when copying events, I'm going to copy this event, hold down my Alt or Option, move it vertically, and as I move it vertically first, I hold down Control or Command, and now I can't move it in time. So that will constrain the direction. If I move it horizontally first, then I wouldn't be able to move it vertically when doing constrained direction copies. Duplicating events is quite easy. We could go to the right-hand center edge, and we'll see our cursor turn into a hand, and then we could drag to the right. I could also hold down my Alt or Option key and go to the lower right-hand corner and drag across. To split events, and if I don't want to go to a scissors tool, I could just hold down the Alt or Option and click at the bottom of the event. And we've now split that event. Many times when recording, we may have multiple passes that could be lanes underneath. And if we wanted to switch to different lanes, we could go to the bottom center and select a different audio file for the range selection there. When we want to resize events, we can resize events using our handles, our bottom right handles to resize the end, or the bottom left handle to resize the beginning of the event. Now there are 3 different sizing modes, and we could select our sizing modes here, or you could just hit the 1 key to cycle back and forth between the 3 sizing modes. In Sizing Moves Contents, I can now move the end of the file over to the left, or move the beginning of the file over to the right. If we go to Sizing Applies Time Stretch, we can just come here, and as we adjust, that will speed up the audio file or slow it down to make it fit within the new boundaries. And if we wanted our keyboard shortcut to be fixed to one particular sizing mode so that we don't switch accidentally, you could do that in the key commands as well. When we want to slip the audio within the event, we could hold down the Control or Command or Alt plus Option and just come over here and slip the contents of the audio within the container. Fades are also very easy to work with. If we go to our upper right hand handle, we can see our fade out. Our upper left hand handle, we could do fade in. If we wanted to actually work with our fades and edit the fade so it's not just a straight linear fade, I could double click in the object selection zone, and we could double click there, and now we could pull up a fade editor. Now there may be times when we want to keep the fade position at the same point but still resize the end of the event. So I'm going to hold down Alt or Option plus Control Command, and that way the fade position is maintained. We could also use kind of the actual range tools as well for working with fades. So let's say if I wanted to fade in to this particular point, I could hit the letter A, and that would do a fade in. Or if I have a selection in the middle, I could hit the letter A, and it would fade into that selection start and then fade out from that particular selection. If we wanted to change the volume of the clip of the events before it hits the faders, we have clip gain. So I could adjust the upper center line, and we could just make this louder or softer directly there. And if I use this in combination with my holding down the Alt or Option key, we could split an event here and adjust the clip gain like so. One of the preferences that could be really handy when working with the range tool is, you may notice that as I select a range, that my left and right locators are automatically selected. And this is really helpful if you're punching in on vocals and I want to just fix this one word. And if you wanted to activate that preference, we can go to Preferences to Editing and choose that Cycle Follows Range Selection. So now anytime that I define a range, my left and right locators are automatically set. Now, as we want to work with range and do some basic range editing, I could come over here and without splitting the event, if I had the selected range, I could move it over, or if I hold down my Alt or Option key, I could copy that range to a different location. If we want to select the range not only for single events, but maybe globally as we work with the range tool, we could hold down the Control or Command plus the Shift key, and then we could globally select the range for all tracks. When we have range selections, we may want to extend those particular range selections. And there's keyboard shortcuts where we could nudge the selected range over to the left or to the right, the beginning of the range, or I want to take the end of the range to the left or to the right, or we could go up, the top up or the top down, or the bottom up or bottom down. Now, some other common range editing that we would do if we had a range selected is, let's say if I wanted to split this range selection, I could hit Shift plus X, and now we've split that selected range. If I wanted to have a selected range and just simply get rid of it, duplicate the contents right there, I would hit Control or Command plus X. And at that point, we now have silence there. If I wanted to get rid of this part of the range and have this portion of the file scoot over to the left, I'm going to hold down Control or Command plus Shift plus X, and that will automatically move that event over to the left. So I don't have to physically move it. Now, if I have a selected range and I wanted to move the contents based on the length of the selected range, I could hit Control, Command, plus Shift, plus the letter E. And now the event is kind of butted over to the right. One of my favorite range tools you could access just by when we have a selected range, if I wanted to get rid of what was before or after the event, we go to your range and we could set up just to do a crop. So that way, whatever is selected will be left and everything else will be erased from the particular event. Now, when we want to work with automation, these tools are also very easy to work with. So if I just click with my object selection tool, I could enter in automation data. So I could just come here, and if we want to put in different points, and I could move these points very easily like so. If I wanted to select these points, I could come from the bottom to select the automation nodes, and if I wanted to adjust the automation down like that, or we could actually select the range of automation as well. So if I wanted to hold down my Alt or Option key, I could copy that particular automation range over to another period of time. If I wanted to quickly do like an automation bump, I could select my range here and then just go up or down with my automation like so. So if I wanted this to go down, and let's say at this point I wanted to curve up, and let's say I wanted to work with a Bezier curve, now I could just come right over here and put my curves in very easily. So if I want to just click, I don't have to switch tools. Just these tools will always be available and accessible right there. Now, if I have a range of automation events selected, and if I wanted to raise or lower them proportionally, I could grab the upper center handle. Or if I wanted to compress the automation, I could go to the center right edge to compress the automation points. Or I could choose to tilt the automation by going to the upper left or right hand corner handles, just like so. So as you can see, we could do all of this functionality without switching a single tool when using the combined object selection and range tool in Cubase. If you found this video helpful, please feel free to like the video and to subscribe to the channel.